Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the host or the station. Thank you for joining me today. I have a wonderful guest on. All my guests are wonderful and exceptional, and I learned from all of them. Today's guest is special in a different way because my guest today is Dani, who is a friend of my son Josh. And Dani helped Josh get through a very difficult time. And that's how I met Dani. And Dani has a history of being bullied, coming from a mentally and emotionally abusive background. She is a member of the LBGTQ plus community, a mental health community. She is a disabled child, well, now she's an adult, of a disabled parent. She faced the loss of a twin, and she was in a nursing home for 1.5 years. I can't wait to hear Dani's story. So please listen. Welcome, Dani, to Chatting with Betsy.
Thank you, Betsy. This is such an honor. I'm so glad to finally be having a full-blown conversation with you. I've been like I said earlier, I've been wanting to talk to you for a while because Josh would just tell me so many wonderful things about you, and from the way he talked about you, you just seemed like this fun, funky, person. So.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words, and thank you for, helping to support Josh. Folks, I just wanted to tell you, for those who don't know, Josh helped take care of his dad, who had early onset Alzheimer's, and Matt died January 1st, 2020. And, as you know, everything shut down like in March. So Josh lost his job, contact with family, and just no socialization. And Dani helped Josh through a difficult time with caregiving when Matt was dying and afterwards. And, Dani, people like you are rare and truly treasured. So I can't thank you enough for your support with Josh. And,
like I said earlier, having a disabled parent, and being kind of a part-time caregiver to my father myself, I could understand in a way what he was going through and how he struggled and what it was like for him. And we wouldn't just, talk about what he was going through. I think the way I helped him was just getting his mind off of things, not talking about it, getting his mind in a place where he wasn't so focused on what was going on around him, where he was more focused on just enjoying himself and enjoying a conversation with someone.
Yes, exactly. So. That's you're a true gem, because there's not many people who want to reach out to those going through a tough time. And I really think, Dani, and you yourself have experienced very tough times, and it's people who have experienced tough times who have a heart to help other people. That's what I have found in doing this show.
Yeah, and, I just the way I see it is when you're a friend, you have to support your friends no matter what they're going through, even though you might have a hard time, supporting them. You just got to kind of be there when you can and try to help the best you can, because you don't know when you're going to need someone else's support.
Exactly. I agree, Dani. You know what? Sometimes people say, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do. But you know what, folks? Sometimes all people want is to vent and to listen. So if you would just listen to someone, right, without judgment.
Sometimes just being that listening ear or that shoulder to cry on is just so much so much more meaningful than anything else you could do for someone. Just being that support can mean the world to someone, because I know there have been times where I have needed support, especially when I was in long-term care and in a nursing home. I needed that support, and I was very lucky to have very supportive friends who would call me, text me, come visit me. You know, that was a big thing for me when I was going through my struggles not being able to walk. So
yes. You know what, Dani, I have a poem that I wrote it's about caregivers, but it's really for anyone. And that is, see if I can remember it, what I wrote. All caregivers, and it's not just caregivers, it's anyone. All people want, really, is for 2 ears, you know, to hear us, a shoulder to cry on, and 2 arms to give us a hug, and to listen without judgment.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. I mean, I did have one friend who, like, I know her heart was in a good place, but she made too many jokes about me being in long-term care. They were very, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, God, I can't think of the word. I hate when that happens.
That's all right. It happens to me.
They were just, like, insensitive. That's the word I'm looking for. They were insensitive to my situation. Because, yeah, I'll admit, I had to wear an adult diaper, which is not fun. You know, it was just, that was one of the worst times of my life. I don't know I always say, I don't know which one was harder. Being in a nursing home at 35 or losing my twin brother at the age of 30. So it's difficult. And you know what? I can't. There's 2 things I don't like what people say, Dani, and you can let me know if you agree with me. I don't like when people say, be strong, because you don't have to be, and that just puts pressure on someone. And 2, I know what you're going through, when you know they have not a clue, because unless you went through something, you don't know what it's like. I don't know what your experience is like, Dani. Right? Exactly. And, oh, my God, it used to really tick me off after my brother died when people would message me and say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. No, you don't. Your sibling who died wasn't your twin. It's completely different when you lose a twin compared to, like, losing a sibling, I feel. I mean, I still have a brother and a sister who are both alive and healthy. But it's, like, even one of my friends had said to me, no, you're right, Danielle. You know, they don't know what you're going through because it wasn't their twin. And I just don't like it when people are like, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. No, you don't know my struggles. You don't know my experiences. Yes, you can try to understand. You can try to empathize or sympathize or whatever. But unless you're in that person's shoes, you're never going to completely get it.
True. Absolutely true. And I'm sorry for the loss of your brother. I lost my brother a couple of years ago. Wasn't a twin, but I know there's a special bond with twins.
Yes, I mean, me and my twin brother weren't exactly, like, really close, but he's that one person I could always turn to when I was going through something for a laugh and to, like, just get me in a better headspace and make me laugh, because my twin brother was a comedian without being a comedian, you know. He was just funny and just witty, and just the things he would that would come out of his mouth were hysterical. Like, family holidays are always entertaining with my twin around. Always fun. You know, holidays were a blast.
And, when people found this with grieving, Dani, when people are uncomfortable around those who are grieving, so either they say something so inappropriate, but they don't realize that it's inappropriate, or they don't say anything at all. And you know what? I just want to tell the audience, if you don't know what to say to someone whose sibling has died or whoever, spouse, partner, can you just say to someone, I'm here for you. I'm here to hold space for you. I don't understand what you're going through, but I'm here to give you a hug. How about that? How about saying that to somebody?
Or a simple, I'm sorry for your loss. That's all you have to say if you don't know what to say. All you have to say is, I'm sorry for the loss of your significant other or whoever. Because sometimes when people don't know what to say, the things they do say just make it worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if one more person would have said Matt was in a better place, I really felt like smacking him.
Oh, my God. Or with my brother. Oh, your brother must have been really suffering.
Yeah.
He's in a better place now. It's like, I mean, okay, when my father died, it was a completely different story. It didn't hit me as hard when my father died because my father had been sick for many, many years. He was disabled. You know, I saw him basically get progressively worse over a 25-plus year time period. And, you know, when he did die, we knew we didn't have much longer with him anyway because he had recently gotten diagnosed with colon cancer, and, you know, we knew we were on borrowed time with him. And we also knew, like, okay, yeah, I know people hate when you say, oh, well, at least they're no longer suffering. Well, with my dad, I knew that's true because my dad had been in a lot of pain for a lot of years, and, you know, he was suffering a lot, and now that he's gone, he's no longer suffering, which, you know, I think when it comes to death, it all depends on who died and their personal situation, and death affects everybody differently, and it's, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling. Sorry.
No, that's you're doing fine. I understand because my dad. It really wasn't a surprise when my dad died because he had Alzheimer's and COPD and diabetes and heart condition. But when my older brother died, it was like shocking because he was, you know, fine. He went in the hospital, and they find something, you know, wrong with him, and then he had to get transferred to another hospital. And I just, like, you just can't believe that they're not here. You know, you expect it with the parent, but not your sibling.
Yeah, when it's a sibling, it's completely different from a parent because you expect your parent to die. I didn't expect to lose my brother like a couple months, not even a couple months before our 31st birthday. And one of the hardest things about that time was his friends forced me to celebrate my birthday, and I didn't even want to celebrate my birthday that year. And it made me realize that sometimes people will force you to do things after someone dies because they think that's what you need and that's what's going to make you feel better, but they don't realize they're just putting you in an uncomfortable and awkward situation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, everyone, you know, grieves differently in their own way, and I can't stand it when folks, people say, stop talking about them. I actually had a person tell me to stop talking about Matt 2 weeks after Matt died. I'm like, are you serious? No, I will never stop talking about my husband. Are you kidding me?
Wait, that was the love of your life. That was the man you married. How can you not stop talking about him? How can you not stop fighting the good fight, you know?
You know, like to mention person's name. What? Would you mind saying your brother's name, Dani?
My brother's name was Patrick.
Patrick. Why can't people say Patrick's name, Matt's name? You know, like people are afraid they might upset us. That's reminding us that they're gone. Folks, we know our loved ones are gone, okay?
Exactly.
We know they're gone.
They're always going to be in our hearts, and they're always going to be a part of us.
Yes. And we want you to mention our loved one's name. They lived on this earth for whatever time they lived. And
exactly.
I find this is my own personal way of dealing with grieving, is that the best way to honor our loved one's life is to enjoy life as much as we can, and if you can, do something to honor their memory. And
exactly. I agree.
You know, I tell people, you know, post pictures, celebrate the person's birthday. I do that with Matt. I don't care if people like it or not. I'm too old to care what people think at this point.
If it helps you deal with it, like, we all have to deal with things in our own way. And the way we deal with things might not be healthy to other people, but our perception of what's healthy for us might be different than what other people's perception of healthy for us is. Like,
that's right.
People might think it's not appropriate that you celebrate Matt's birthday, but I won't say the word I want to say, but you know what? Forget them.
Right.
Forget them.
Yeah.
That's your way of coping. That's your way of coping, and it helps you feel better. It helps you, and you got to do what helps you and what's best for you. Sometimes I got to put myself first, because if I don't put myself first, no one else is going to.
Exactly. So true, Dani, and it's so true, and I've learned a lot, you know, about grieving. I didn't know what it was like, you know, grieving my dad. My brother is totally different than grieving a spouse, and you know, now I understand what people felt in losing a partner or a spouse, and now a sibling, you know, and a parent, and they're all, you know, different. And I have to ask you about your nursing home experience, because you're a young woman, and to be in a facility and seeing, you know, older people, that had to be very challenging. It had to be very depressing for you.
I was the youngest one there. I was the youngest. And the closest person in age to me was, I think, maybe 8 years older than me. So it was like, but I'm the type of person who can relate to anyone of any age. So I was lucky enough to make some friends in the nursing home in Matawan and the nursing home in East Orange. But unfortunately, I lost touch with all of them, which is what happens sometimes. Like, sometimes you lose touch with people.
Right.
It happens. But that, like I said earlier, that was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. Being 35, being unable to walk, having to use adult diapers, which not fun. Not fun at all. But it's like, you know, I didn't even know if I was going to walk again. I had lost hope after being in the subacute rehab, because the head of therapy at the subacute rehab told me I had to face the fact that I'm probably never going to walk again. How can you tell someone, oh, you have to face the fact that you're never going to walk again. When they didn't know what was going on with me, at that point, they didn't know my diagnosis and what had happened to me and why I couldn't walk. Turns out I had 2 herniated discs pressing against my spinal cord, spinal stenosis, and a rare case of central cord syndrome. Central cord syndrome is only supposed to last up to 4 weeks. Mine lasted for 6 months. So, and it was a very slow progression. But it was funny because once the subacute rehab had transferred me to the place of Mattawan, within 2 months I was up and walking.
Wow.
Because, well, it was the different therapy. It was the therapist pushing me and making me do things I didn't feel I was ready for. Like, every time she tried to get me to do something new, I'm like, are you sure I can do this? I don't think I can do this. Are you sure I can do this? And she's like, yeah, you can do it. Don't worry. We'll help you. We got you. And little by little, the first step was learning to stand on my own again. And I would have to push myself up with the walker. I would have one therapist on each side, and they'd help me up. And, yeah, so little by little, I started walking more and more, It was rough, but it proves to me just how strong I really am to get through that. Because I don't think a lot of people my age would have been able to handle it the way I did.
That's a tough situation to be in. And how are you doing now? Are you able to walk now around?
I can walk without any walking implement. I can
wow.
walk without a cane. I'm living on my own again. I have my own place again. I'm doing really
great.
good. I mean, yeah, I can't walk too much. I can't walk far. I mean, yeah, there's times where I'm going to need the wheelchair or a rollator. Usually if I go anywhere, I take my cane. But, I'm doing a lot better. Like, it's actually funny because I saw my one friend over the weekend, and she hadn't seen me in a while, and she was like, how are you doing? How are you walking? Are you walking okay? So I got out of the car, and I walked around the car, and she was so excited that I was walking well. I mean, yeah, my walking's never going to be the way it was when I was healthy, but at least I can walk,
That is wonderful, Dani. And I have to ask you this, Dani, because I have interviewed many people with various disabilities. When you were in a wheelchair, what was that experience like? How did people treat you? Do you feel like you were overlooked? You were looked down on? People ignored you? What was your experience?
No. It's funny. I say, when you're in a wheelchair, usually people are nicer to you. People will rush to open the door if you're in a wheelchair or if you're using a rollator or a walker. Like, I've noticed people are so much nicer to me now that I'm disabled. It's weird.
Well, I'm glad that people, helped you. Sometimes people treat someone who's in a wheelchair as if they can't think for themselves, or won't even talk to the person standing next to them, or just totally treat them like they're not there. So I'm glad that you didn't have that experience. So everyone's experience is different.
I'm very lucky to not have that experience, because I know that some people who are disabled get treated horribly compared to the way I've been treated, and some people will look down upon disabled people and feel like they're less than because they have the disability. Or that one thing that someone had said about my father, because my father used to like sell Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards and everything. Someone had once said the only reason people buy cards from my father is because he's in a wheelchair. That seriously ticked me off. It's like, no, people buy cards from my father because he gives good deals, he has good prices, he's friendly, he's personable, he makes his customers feel comfortable. And I think with being disabled, it's like people want I lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens. But with being disabled, it's like a catch-22 almost. It has its good things and its bad things, just like everything. Everything has a positive side to it. Everything has a negative side to it. And
true.
You got to try to see more of the positive side to it than more of the negative side to it, in my opinion. Because I like to say I'm not a pessimist, because a lot of people think I'm pessimistic. I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist. I think realistically. And I think that comes from seeing both the positive and the negative in everything. Where, yes, I see the good side, but I also see the bad side. And in the middle, there's that realism. There's that realism, that reality. So if you try to see the reality in everything, then you're not really a pessimist, you're a realist.
Right. And there is a difference, because I'm also a realist. I see things how they are. And I interview all, different types of people from all backgrounds. And the common thread with people who have disabilities is they want to be treated with respect and dignity and like everyone else. And they should be treated that way.
They should be. My dad wanted that. And I'm lucky enough where I think part of it is because of my age and the fact that I look younger than I actually am. I don't look 37. I often get that I look like I'm 10 years younger, which is a blessing.
Yes.
Definitely a blessing. But I look like I'm 27 compared to how old I am. So I think when people see this young woman struggling with a rollator or a wheelchair, they kind of have more sympathy because it's someone younger, which isn't fair. Because why should I be treated better because I'm younger than someone else with a disability? Why treat me with dignity and respect because I'm younger with a disability than someone, say, maybe 20 years older than me with the same disability? Why treat me better than them? I'm so different from them. What, because I'm younger? Come on.
Right. I understand what you're saying, because, I guess, I don't know why or how people think. They might think, oh, well, they're, older, so that's part of the package. You'll end up in a wheelchair or using a walker as you age. Maybe that's the mentality you're thinking. But not everyone does. It's true.
I don't think I had an uncle who lived until he was like 93. I don't think he ever wound up in a wheelchair or anything like that. I think he was still playing golf at the age of 93, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah, everyone's, different. I always say, you know what? By the grace of God go I. All it takes is one accident, an illness, and anyone can become disabled. And the older you do get, your chances are increased by that.
Also, the older you get, the chances of recovering are less.
Yeah.
Because I was told I'm lucky I'm so young because I may have not been able to bounce back from this, say, if I was in my 50s. So
Yeah, that's true.
You know, in a way, yes, I was lucky it happened when I was younger, but still, it's like, I'm not lucky I'm disabled. Like, being disabled is not easy. It's not fun. It's not something I would wish upon anyone. I would not wish what happened to me on anyone, not even my worst enemy, not even someone I hate. You know, I wouldn't wish it because not being able to walk is depressing. I was very depressed during that time, thinking, well, I'm never going to walk again. I should just end it all. You know, I was honestly suicidal at that time because I didn't think I would walk again. But here I am, 3 years later. I'm walking, not running, but I'm walking, trying to take care of myself like I used to, you know. I mean, and also, since I've been disabled, there's things I still haven't done, and there's things that I had to do for the first time in being disabled. Like, one of the biggest hurdles for me that I overcame last year was going to the beach. That was my biggest hurdle for me to overcome because I was afraid, oh, I'm going to fall in the sand and not be able to get back up, you know. But I overcame that, and thank God I was with two of my friends, so they weren't going to let me fall. So, but also, after becoming disabled, there's a lot of things you have to adapt to, and you have to make adjustments. Like, so.
Yes, that is definitely true. And you know what, Dani, one of the reasons why I love doing my show is because I love to interview people like you who had a struggle and you came out victorious. You are a survivor, my new friend. You are victorious.
I am a warrior.
Yes. And you know what? Things like when, happen in our lives, and, no one ever knows what life is going to throw at us. We become stronger, for it. And even though it's tough, and, a lot of people are in dark places. I'm glad you chose to live. I'm glad you chose to fight, to walk again.
Jumping to the mental health aspect of my life. I have tried to end my life several times, and someone doesn't want me up there yet. I don't know who. Someone doesn't want me to go yet because I've tried. I mean, I've been dealing with mental health issues. I was diagnosed for the first time when I was 14. So you figure I've been dealing with mental health issues for close to 25 years. And I've been on different medications, been in different hospitals, including state hospitals, which, state hospitals are no joke. But, the whole mental health aspect, comes into play with the disability because it's like I've had a hard time accepting my new reality. This new disability, I've had a hard time accepting it, and it has caused some depression, which I already struggle with depression, and I have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So, you get those cycles, and you get, like, one day you'll be so happy, happy to be alive, happy to be walking, and then the next day you'll be depressed because it's like, I can't even get my foot onto my bed. You know, it's just like little things that can change your
upset.
mood. It's just
Yes.
the littlest thing can change your mood. Like, there's little victories and little defeats. Like,
yes.
I always like having the little victories. Little victories are always so much better.
That's yes, that's true, and it is a constant battle. I suffered with depression since I was a child myself. When I was younger, maybe 9 or 10, I had thought about ending my life, and I'm glad I didn't.
I'm glad you didn't.
And for some reason, when Matt, my husband, was going through, his Alzheimer's, I would never would have left my family. I don't know why. I was obsessed with the railroad tracks by work, how they felt in the winter versus the summer. I never would have taken my life. I was in a deep, dark hole. I didn't want to accept what was coming down the road. And that's why I named my group. People say, Betsy, why'd you name your group #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement? Because, I'm going to get verklempt. Because I was in a dark hole, folks. And I knew I had to get out and never go back in that hole. And I knew I couldn't let Alzheimer's defeat me.
Alzheimer's destroy you like that.
Right. And I'm a better person. I mean, that journey changed my life, but it was not easy. And,
I can imagine. And
you get,
I had a roommate with dementia. I had a roommate with dementia in the one nursing home, and it's something hard to deal with. And, because she would say these things that in no way could be true. But in her head, she believed them because, of the dementia. And I still don't completely understand dementia, and I will, but having that experience taught me a little bit, Our experience is safe up.
It's hard to deal with, and I'm a huge mental health advocate. I've done a lot of shows about mental health. Always promote going for therapy. The one thing about the pandemic I'm grateful for is that it brought mental health out into the open.
Into therapy.
Yes.
I mean, I've been in and out of therapy for 20 some odd years. Right now I have a really great therapist. I work very well with her. I have a really good doctor, too, who I work very well with. And I feel when you're dealing with mental health struggles, it's very important you have a good therapist and a good doctor. And if you don't have a good doctor, at least having a good therapist.
Yes.
Therapy is important. Therapy is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Dani. And I tell people, you may not like the first therapist you meet. You might have to try 2 or 3 to get the one that fits for you. And I know I had to try a few out.
They always say you gotta kiss a few frogs before you find a prince. And it's the same thing with therapy. You gotta go through a few horrible therapists, because I had this one I refused to see after a while because he was a jerk to me, for lack of an expletive. But he was a complete jerk, and I refused to see him. But fortunately for me, he retired, and I got a different therapist who, even though he was a good therapist, it was like talking to my grandfather. Because he was an older gentleman, and I was in my early mid-20s at the time. And it was kind of like talking to my grandfather. Very awkward, but he was a very good therapist. But now I'm with this woman, and she's amazing. I love talking to her. You know, she puts things into perspective for me, but also will tell me when something's off, or that's what a good therapist should do. They should call you out on your BS, but
yes.
also be there to kind of support you, or And one thing the therapist has told me is I make it easy for her job easy because I am very transparent, I am very open, I'm very honest, because I believe honesty is the best policy, and if you're not honest with yourself, then how are you going to be honest with others? Honesty is a big thing for me. Like, I don't like people lying to me. That is something that infuriates me.
Yes, me too. Yes.
It's funny how much you and I have in common.
Yes, I'm an honest person. Yes,
I am one of the most honest people you will ever meet. I am one of the most understanding people you will ever meet. And I think the fact that I'm so understanding sometimes gets me in trouble because
I know.
People can use me as a therapist. Like, and I'm not a licensed therapist, but maybe I should go to get my LSW. Maybe I should go back to school to get my LSW. I was thinking about it, going into like social work or become a therapist or something, because I think with my experience in the mental health system, it's something that can be a valuable resource when you have someone who has been in the mental health system, who has come out on the bright side of the mental health system, because I've seen a lot of people get lost in the mental health system. I've had a lot of friends just go back into the hospital, and I've never heard from them again. And it's hard.
It is.
When you meet these friends and then you never see them again because they went to TPH or wherever, or they went to wherever another state hospital is, and they got, I don't remember all the names of the state hospitals. The only one I can think of is Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, and I was there.
Yes, I was there as a student nurse back in 76, a long time ago, folks.
Okay.
And it was very depressing.
I've been there 4 times, and that is one rough place, and that is one place you never want to go, because there were fights breaking out almost every day. You have people really struggling with their mental illness that will say things about you out of paranoia and stuff. And, and sometimes, like, they'll put you with a roommate you can't stand. Like, I've had a few roommates that was like, get me out of this room now. I cannot stand this woman. So, but I think being in a state psychiatric hospital at a young age kind of helped me mature more, because the first time I went to Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, I was 19 years old. And I got out after 9 months. I was in a group home for about a year. And then I got kicked out of the group home, put back in Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, and, now I'm with a supportive housing program, which I had been able to get through Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, and they've been working with me for the past 15 years. I've been a part of supportive housing program. And I've grown up a lot. And the thing about some people with mental illness is they never really grow up, I've noticed. And I don't like saying this, but some people with mental illness, they never really gain that maturity because they're so stuck in their mental illness. So, I mean, it's not true for everyone, but I've seen it. I've seen it quite a bit, where people who are in their 50s still act like they're 15 years old because of having this mental illness.
Yeah, I think, at some point, we all need to take responsibility for our, behavior and actions. And I'm a huge, a mental health advocate. I'm not ashamed to say I'm seeing a psychologist now for caregiver post-traumatic stress. It is a real thing, folks. It's now getting recognized. Hallelujah. It wasn't recognized 18 years ago, but now it's getting recognized. People are talking about it, and I've always been ahead of my time. But huge mental health advocate. And please, folks, don't judge someone because they have a tough time. They have a mental health issue. It can happen to anyone. And I'm glad it's, I'm glad I'm hearing public service announcements about mental health wellness. It's so important.
It really is, especially when it comes to caregivers, because caregivers don't get the recognition they deserve. They don't get the care they deserve. Because I know when my mother had to take care of my father, it was really hard for her. She lost a lot of weight. She barely ate. She barely slept. It was really hard for her. And, my sister and I would keep telling her, Mom, did you eat today? Make sure you eat. Make sure you get your sleep. It's kind of like we had to be her caregiver while she was being the caregiver for my father. It's like we had to make sure she was taking care of herself. Because I think that's something that happens a lot with caregivers, where they're so busy taking care of someone else, they don't take care of themselves.
Oh, that's true, Dani. That's like a whole nother show. That's true. That's true. That's like another show you and I could do, because that is the honest truth. And you've seen it, and you lived it, right? And I lived it. So it's like, yes, who's taking care of the caregivers, right? Who's taking care of you? That's true. Dani, I love talking to you.
I love talking to you. I'm having a blast. One thing I did want to say is CNAs don't get the respect they deserve. CNAs in the nursing homes, their job is so tough. They are overworked. They often have to work overtime, and they get treated so horribly by some of these residents. So shout out to the CNAs out there. You deserve a lot more money for the work you do than you are getting paid. That is not an easy job. I know I wouldn't be able to do it.
No, that's true. That's a whole nother show too. I worked at a nursing home when I was a teenager. God,
tough.
I
couldn't do it. I could not do it. I have friends who were CNAs, and it's funny actually. When I was in the subacute rehab, my one friend who's a CNA was my CNA, so it was kind of awkward.
That's
true. When your friend has to wipe your butt.
Yeah, I'm sure. Uncomfortable. But I want to thank you for coming on, Dani, and talking
anytime.
To me today. And you're a phenomenal guest. I'd love to have you on again. And
I was definitely able to come back. This was a blast.
Oh, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I just love having conversations with people and people who can inspire other people. You're an inspiration, Dani. You just,
Thank you.
You know, you're inspiring, and I think you should write a book one day. That's what I think. You have a lot of book material there.
When I was younger, I wanted to write a book, but I don't think I have the patience to do that. I don't think I have the patience.
I don't either.
I always say patience is a virtue which I do not possess.
I don't have the patience either to sit and write a book or to record into a recorder. So I can understand that. But thank you for coming on, Dani. Folks,
I would love to come back. This was a blast.
Oh, definitely. We will set something up. Folks, Dani wants to remain anonymous, so there is no way to contact her. If you have any comments about today's show that you would like to get to Dani, then you can send me an email at Sloan, SLOAN, Betsy, BETSY 31 @gmail.com. That's my email. Sloan is my married name. And I wanted to thank you again for coming on, Dani. Folks, there still will be a blog for the show, what the show is about. And I want to thank Jeannie White, who writes the blog, station manager, produces the show. I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, who makes this all possible. And I want to thank you, the listeners, for listening. If you don't already subscribe to Chatting with Betsy, it is free to subscribe. You don't want to miss any of my guests because they are phenomenal and they can help you. I provide resources. They provide resources. And you could subscribe on iHeart, Spotify, YouTube, Spreaker, just to name just a few, where you can get Chatting with Betsy. And please tell people about my show and share so I can help people. I want to help as many people as possible. I do it to honor Matt's memory. And when you help me share the show, you are honoring my husband's memory, and I really thank you all for that. And thank you for listening, and if you do already subscribe. And I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, please be kind and shine your light bright. Because if we all did that, it would be a much kinder, lighter world, wouldn't it? And we need that now more than ever. So keep on being kind. Thank you. Keep on shining. Until we chat again, this is your host of Chatting with Betsy, Betsy Wurzel on Passionate World Talk Radio. Bye-bye now.